Some people rock and some people roll. Some will make you giggle right down to your soul. So talk to the world and introduce them to you. And look at me now, I'm on Barbara and you. You gotta take a step inside the shoes of another. Get to know your neighbor, get to know one another. So talk to the world and introduce them to you. And look at me now, I'm on Barbara and you.
Good evening. Welcome to the Barbara and You Show and to the Workers Credit Union virtual studio. And I'm here because of all my wonderful friends and helpers at FATV, and I'm glad you're joining us also. Before I introduce you to my first guests, let me tell you who's going to be joining me at 7:30. We're on a kind of a writer's theme tonight. I have, for the second half, I'll be interviewing Colleen and Peter, that's a mother and son, Colleen and Peter Wheatmartian, that's it, I got it right, Wheatmartian. They're going to be joining me, and they are people that help writers. And everybody that watches this show with any regularity knows I love to interview writers. I always say writers and preachers are never at a loss for words. And welcome back to the show. And as I said, we've kind of got a theme of writers tonight. We just interviewed those two poets. And then we have this mother and son act that helps authors. And Colleen and Peter Wheatmartian have a business that you call it literary prose or author's assistants. Colleen, why don't you start and tell us about your business and how it started?
Okay, it's your literary prose, and how it started is, well, I'm celebrating 25 years in business this year. However, my first business was medical transcription, and with the changes and everything, about 6 years ago, I joined an authors club or a writers club where Peter was going to college down in Kentucky, and people did not know how to finish what they had written, poems, books. They didn't know how to go about publishing it. And I found out about a scholarship for certified author's assistants. So I applied for the scholarship and I won the scholarship. So I took the class and became a certified author assistant. So we are not a publishing company, but what we do is help people in any part of the process: manuscript creation, planning, book planning, publishing, marketing. So when Peter graduated from college, he decided to come on board with me.
Wow. And Peter, where did you go to college?
So I'm a proud graduate of Morehead State University.
I'm from Ohio, so I recognize that college, yes. Yeah. And did you always have an interest in writing as well?
Not really, actually. It's really kind of surprising to me that I ended up in this field. So in college and in high school, I was really into music. I actually have a degree in music for saxophone. So I took most of my college career in the music field. But, you know, as you're in college, you have to end up writing papers. You have to do research reports, things like that. And I just kind of found that that's where I did a lot of good work. I had a couple of papers that I wrote in undergrad that my teacher said I could have probably gone into, like, as a master's student. That's the level that I was, you know, writing at that time. So I was, you know, I kind of fell in love with writing the more and more I did it. And it just happened that when I graduated, we got together, and this is what we've been doing for, it's been almost 5.5 years now, yeah. Since
you've joined Mom in this endeavor.
Yes.
And now, Colleen, I have taught writing for publication classes, but you've gone a step beyond being a writing teacher or motivating people with this. Like you said, you have all sorts of things that you can help them with. It's not just, because I found when I was teaching, a lot of people always wanted to write, but didn't know what to do with it. And I could help them refine it and suggest markets to go to it. But you just cover every aspect of it, don't you?
Actually, we do. When I became certified, you learn every aspect of the process, because we can help people if they want to self-publish their book, or if they want to find an agent and go the traditional route. We can also help them with that aspect of the writing process. So it's really interesting. And the biggest question we get from people is they're confused. They don't know what to do when they want to publish a book. And sometimes it's sad to say, but people get taken by people who want to charge them $25,000 or $30,000 to publish a book. And you're like, wait a minute, no, you don't need to do that. So we like to educate our people, and we always tell them it's your journey. You're in charge. However it is you want to do the process, we can help you here do that. From getting ISBN numbers, helping them get reviews and testimonials, setting up a self-publishing company, whatever. Yeah.
Well, I think we have a fair amount of writers that follow my show, so you may get some more clients out of this. But I was impressed when I read all your titles: professional author assistant, publishing consultant, professional speaker, your literary prose. It's all included in there. And I'm intrigued by the fact that a mother and son are together in this business. Are there any other employees?
No, we have a team that we work with. Everybody's a subcontractor, but we have contractors. We have a couple of book designers, graphic designers on our team who can help with covers, and they've been in the publishing process. They've actually worked for publishing companies in their past or whatever, and so they help us do that and set up the books. What else, Peter?
And we have any team member that we can think that goes into the publishing process. So we have a couple of virtual assistants, who can help with different parts of running the business. Because one of the things that we found is a lot of writers, when they publish their book, don't realize that they need to treat it like a business. Because you need to go out and you need to market yourself, you need to market your book, and a lot of people just think, oh, I can just write the book and I'm going to make money. Well, there's a business side of it too. So we have team members who can help with putting together that business side of the writing.
Now, I hope you haven't abandoned your music entirely.
Oh no, not at all. Actually, I have a few friends from college that I work with. Their teachers, so I work with their programs through the summer. Marching band is really my big focus. I've been working with a marching band for actually since I graduated, and I recently went back to my alma mater at LaSalle High School, and my friend from college happened to get the director position there, so I'm back to where it all started.
But you're not going to stop working with Mom.
No, not at all. No, it's a great side. It's a way to have fun with the music, but still having the time. That's the great thing about being a business owner, is we can make the time that we have to work in the business. But if we need to take time to have fun and work with the marching band, I have the ability to do that, which is
that's great. But I think we here in North Central Massachusetts, we have a lot of businesses that are second and third generations. We have a few that are fourth and fifth generations, but it's not always easy to work with your family. How does the mother-son relationship interact with the business relationship?
Actually, it's not bad. I mean, everybody's going to have their issues of, some things, but it's just funny in the different working styles we have. I'll like to start early in the morning, usually, and Peter will start a couple hours later, but then he'll work later. So it's a balance that way, especially if we're working with people on the, more West Coast than Eastern Central Time or Central Time. But I don't know. What do you think? It's worked out pretty well.
It's great because I've known her my entire life. we know how each other works. She's been working at home since I can remember. So, it's really great because I've seen the work that she puts into it, and I know how she works. And obviously, raising me, she knows how I work. And it's great that we can use our strengths, to help each other and not just have to relearn how each other works.
Are you an only child?
Yes, I am.
Well, then we don't have to worry about any sibling rivalry.
He's actually my miracle child, so yes, he's very special.
Is there a story behind that, or?
Oh, there's a big story behind it, but I don't know if you want to hear.
There's a book for you to write, isn't it?
Yeah, but I've had people tell me that, so who knows? Maybe there is. Yeah.
Well, you of all people should be able to write your book. So,
I know.
but Peter, how is she as a boss?
Well, she's great. It's great because, I mean, honestly, we do a good job of each taking responsibility for the things that we're really good at. So, yes, she is technically the boss, but I feel like we have a pretty even share of everything that goes on within the business, which is good.
What's one great thing about it is that he has a different mindset in different ways of doing things, which, I'm older, so I have ways that I grew up with, and then he brings such new things into the business, which is a great thing. So that's
on the previous show, when I interviewed the two poets, we talked about what it was like in the old days when we had to physically send a manuscript in and wait a week to see if you're accepted or rejected, and now how you can submit your manuscripts online and it's so easy. But also back in those days when I had taken classes and when I was teaching classes, self-publishing was kind of looked down upon, and now it seems to be a everyday occurrence. You want to address that? Colleen, do you remember how different it used to be?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, really, you didn't hear about self-publishing until maybe 15, 20 years ago when it became bigger. But even in the last 5, 6 years, it's become a lot bigger. And like we have a book club that we do on Monday nights with people, whoever want to join. And we tell people, gosh, I lost my train of thought. But it's really weird, not weird, but people, we've read Stephen King's On Writing, and we're reading Anne Lamott's Bird by Bird now. And they both say if you're not an Anne Lamott or a Stephen King or what James Patterson, really chances of becoming a traditionally published author are pretty slim. I mean, you have to be really, really good, I would say. That's our thought, and they even say that. But with self-publishing, anybody can put out a book, but the goal is, and that's why I became a certified author assistant, is the goal is that you can hold up a self-published book to a traditionally published book, and you cannot tell the difference. But there are steps that you need to take that's very important, not just to throw a book out there. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does make sense. But when we're talking about how times have changed, when I took classes, my writing teacher always said, writing without pay is like acting without applause. And that philosophy has not, it isn't true today. People write for different reasons and self-publish for different reasons. But even the big time, the names you mentioned, and my favorite, Nicholas Sparks, they have to go out and market themselves and promote their books. It's not like the publishers do all this for them anymore.
That's a great comment, because it's true. Even if you do have a traditionally published book, you're in charge of marketing yourself. And that's what we explain to people. If you're going to go traditional, get a contract, find out exactly what they're going to do to help you market, because they're not going to do all the marketing for you.
Right. Now, I would like each of you to think for a minute about some particular situation, some author, without giving names, of course, but where you felt really good about, we were able to help that person and they had success with their writing because they used your services. Are there a couple of cases that comes to mind?
There are definitely a few. I feel like every author that we have worked with finds a different reason to excel because they've worked with us. So some of the authors we've worked with, for example, one of them, she had a children's book that she wrote, but she didn't have the illustrations. So we were able to work with her to, find an illustrator, put the book together and, send it out to print. Another author that we worked with had her book completely put together in manuscript form. And we just did a final edit or two with her. put it in, and again, we're able to send it out to print. We had one gentleman who was actually from Toronto, we met, and he had a great baseline for a book. So he had speeches that he had, given. He had papers that he had worked on, and we helped him basically from the beginning. He had a 10,000 word document that we turned into a 25,000 word, final book for him. So, we've done a little bit of everything, like we said. So it's fun. It's fun really, because we get to see so many different stories and so many different unique perspectives in the world.
I assume it's never boring. It sounds very, very interesting. Now, Colleen, did he leave an interesting story for you to tell?
Yeah, he
A feel-good story?
Well, it's just interesting what you were saying about the people. We tell everybody they have their own journey. However it is, the planning process all the way through. Or we worked with one lady this summer. She had a poetry book, and she had been writing poems for like 14 years and wanted to put it together. So all she really needed was someone to help her with proofing it, and then setting up her self-publishing company, and then having our book designer, interior designer, design it for her. So we say we're not a one-size-fits-all company. We help people in whatever part of the process they're in.
And I often think that, I want to ask you the questions that my viewers might be thinking. So I'm prefacing what I'm about to ask you. How do people sign up with you, and how do you bill people? Is it an hourly rate? Is it a project? Is every case different? And I'm not asking you for dollars and cents figures. I'm just wanting to know, how does it work?
Yeah, sure. So one of the first things that we like to do is we like to have obviously a conversation with our authors. So, we get on a phone call more or less today, really pretty much is the phone call or Zoom only. You can't really get in person, but yeah. So we have a conversation with them, figure out what their needs are. And we really build our services around what they need. We mentioned earlier, we had some people who have just the very basic part of a book. We have some people that have their book already completely written or completely edited, and we can, so we shape what we can offer to what the author really needs. Everyone's unique. So we do that. It depends. We have some of our work is like an hourly, work depending upon what they need. We don't really like to do just the one size, like $5,000 and you're going to get a book, because what we've noticed too is there's a lot of companies who will charge you to do $10,000. We'll publish your book and we're going to guarantee you this Amazon bestseller status. And you can do that, but you're really not going to be guaranteed anything. And the work that you're paying for is probably not going to be worth the time and the money that you spent. So we like to really take our clients through a personalized approach when we work with them.
And in that approach, when you're talking with them, they know where they stand. They know what to expect, what they'll receive, and how much it's going to cost them, basically.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I assume no two cases are exactly alike.
No, not at all. And one good thing that we do is we really work on having a consistent open line of communication, because that's probably the most important thing. So, we have shared project management that we work with our authors. We work with them so they can see exactly what we're doing and they can add in their own 2 cents. We have calls with our clients every week, just even to check in to make sure everything's going okay on their side, because it can be crazy. It can be a little bit overwhelming at some points, but our job is to make sure that our authors that we work with are not as overwhelmed and don't feel as underwater, I guess, as they would if they were on their own.
Oh, I'm sure you give them a cushion of comfort
Oh.
if you're there for them. And Colleen, I want to compliment you. That was very wise of you to see the need and start the business. And it isn't easy to have a startup business. And you pretty much, I assume you kind of started out running it on your own because he wasn't able to help you when you all those years ago.
Right. In 1996, I started, and what happened was he was getting ready to go to preschool at that time, and I was like, I worked for a law firm, and I had gone to nursing school, but I decided not to be a nurse. And anyway, I asked the law firm if I could job share, because back then you could job share, and they said no. We're not going to do job share. And I'm like, okay, then I'm quitting on August 1st, because he was going to preschool, and I said, I just don't want to have the rat race of going back and forth and figuring out pickup and all of that. And so I was blessed. My husband has been so supportive all these years, and we knew what I had to make, in order to stay at home. And the first month I made $500, and I needed to make $1,600. The next month I made $2,100, and it started going from there. So
well, congratulations. It's quite a task to do that and be able to have that kind of success. Do you find that there's a lot of people that want to be writers, but maybe just can't quite make it? And are there some common mistakes that people make? I mean, I don't think everybody has the ability to write. Maybe you do.
I think everyone has a story.
That's true.
I think you're right. You're correct that everyone doesn't really have the skills to write, but if they want to get their story out there bad enough, they can either start, this is just my opinion, that they can either start writing, because the more you write, the better writer you'll become. It sounds, I can't think of the word, but the more you write, the better writer you'll become, but you can still get your points down that you want, and you can always hire a ghostwriter to help you if you really want to get your story out bad enough. A ghostwriter can help you write, but that's also where editing and proofreading is so important, and that comes in, because not everybody is a great writer, and so that's where the editing comes in, where people can go through it with you and help you really focus on what's important. Peter's a great editor. I'm more of a proofreader, so he takes people through and helps them figure out the why, adding more here, no, this isn't needed, that type of thing. But writers, I think we've come across a lot of authors who say, oh, my mom loves to read, so I'm going to have her edit my book. And you're like, no, not really. You don't want that, because they're not being critiquing it enough, and they might hurt your feelings. So that's my view on the writing.
Well, that's something I've always found with writers groups, and why it's so beneficial is we could critique each other and no, don't take it personally. And we're not talking about what happened to you, but we're talking about the way you're writing it. And you really do get help from other writers, and especially if they're already published writers. And I'm also reminded of one seminar we put on years ago, and we had Robert Parker as a speaker, the author of the Spencer series. And somebody in the audience asked him, where do you get your ideas? And he looked at them indignantly and said, I am a writer. And that was his whole answer. So there are people that are more gifted as writers, but that's a very good point, Colleen, that everybody does have a story to tell. And you can help them tell it better, probably.
I mean, we try, and if we can't, then that's why we have our team to help us with, there's a writing coach who's helped with our lady who's doing her second children's book now. We've worked with her, a writing coach, and Peter, like I said, helps with the editing. And so that's why that team is so important to work with.
Well, and you must have some very happy, satisfied clients once they see their book in print or they've achieved their goals.
I think so. We've gotten a lot of nice testimonials from people, and we still keep in touch with them. And it's nice. It's nice.
It's great, because I think a lot of the authors we've worked with over time have become less clients, I would say, and more friends, because you really work with these people for, 2-3 months at the very minimum, sometimes upwards of over a year or two, depending upon where they're, at in their process. So, we're very close with our clients, and we, like I said, we're supportive of them. And I think that kind of lends itself to being just a little bit more friendly, I think.
Do you ever have to worry about hurting their feelings and saying, oh, that's terrible, we got to get that out of there, well, you can't put that in, it's terrible?
That's more me who worries about it. And Peter, so that's where we balance there.
Yeah, and I think it's important that when we're working with a client and I'm working with someone, I make sure to tell them, this is not personal. And I think in the end, they're more appreciative when we can point out some of the flaws, because they know that they're getting a much better final product than they would if they weren't going to, have their book looked at.
Right. And Colleen, did I give you a chance to tell any success story? Peter's told some good ones.
You mean from an author? Or?
Yeah, that you just felt really good about.
You know what? I was just going to say, I just thought of one, and this is in the proofing process, really part of it, because it's so funny when newspapers were a thing. I could look at a newspaper, or if I'm reading a book, I can find a typo or a grammar mistake, whatever. Well, my friend, I was visiting her, and she's an author, and I just happened to go to her place, and she had a book that she was putting out, and I said, oh, can I read this? And she's like, yeah, it's just my printer's proof. And so I said, okay. So I looked, and the first couple of things I found out was a coach that she was working with, whoever had helped her with the book, the coach's name was spelled wrong. And then there were some other things I was reading it, I was sitting there, and I kept noticing these proofing mistakes. And so I said, hey, Ellen, do you know that this was spelled wrong and this was whatever? And she's like, oh my gosh, I didn't. And so she ended up hiring me to proof the book, the printer's proof for her. And I couldn't believe some things I found in the book. And it was kind of like, wow. And then at the end, where the resources were, it was it was more of a nonfiction book, and she had resources at the back. And I thought, when I was proofing it, I'm like, oh, maybe I don't need to look at these resources. They would surely be right. And but I did anyway, because that's what you do. And I found a mistake. And so she gave us a really nice testimonial. She's like, you saved me such embarrassment from going out there, and if I had not looked at this or had somebody else look at it. So that was kind of fun. And she's a dear friend of mine now, actually. But so that's one success story
that's definitely a feel-good story. We just have about 2 minutes left, so I'm going to ask each of you if there's something you want our audience to know that I haven't given you a chance to say. Any advice you want to give, or do you have a website where people can get a hold of you?
Yes, it's Your Literary Prose, and that's PROSE.com. So yourliteraryprose.com. And they can find us there or at our emails, which is Colleen@yourliteraryprose.com or Peter@yourliteraryprose.com.
And why should they call you?
Yes, we are honest, we have integrity, and we allow them to know that they're in charge. It's not about us, it's about them and what they want to do and how they want to get their book out there.
Yeah, I wanted to give you that chance to get your commercial in there. Peter, do you want to add something to what Mom said?
Well, I'll just, say if you're on Facebook or if you're on Instagram or on YouTube, you can find us at Your Literary Prose on all three of those places. We just want to make sure that all of you out there who have a story to tell can tell their story and, share their book if that's the way that they want to do it. And
thank you for sharing your story, both of you, for sharing your story with us. And Colleen, we'll look for that book about your miracle baby. Let me know when that comes out.
Okay.
Thank you so much. And I want to tell my viewers, don't go away, because I want to remind you who's going to be with me next week. We're going to have Anne Racine, which I think most people in North Central Mass know Anne Racine. She's involved in so many different things. But along with her is going to be Linda Anderson, who is the principal of St. Bernard's Catholic High School. And they want us to know what's going on at their school. And so we want to hear about that. And also we're going to have Dr. Cynthia Hall, who is a surgeon who specializes in urogynecology. And she happens to be one of my doctors, and she's a hoot. She's so much fun. So I'm really looking forward to interviewing her next week. I'll be here. I hope you will too. This is Barbara Foster saying good night and God bless you.
So long, farewell, till we meet again. Goodbye for now. Come back.